Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Baron here. Now, it is Sunday and the dev server is up. I checked good old Reddit, found me a link, said dev server's up. A lot of people ask me, hey, when does this come out? Is there a schedule for it? Well, if there is, I don't know it and I don't have access to it. But what I do is check the forum statuses and the War Thunder subreddit, and generally there are a lot of pretty helpful people that will put up pretty good information, like, hey, the dev server's open now, get on there, fool. So I did that. So right now we're going to go over the new American aircraft, and there are 6 of them. You've seen a lot of gameplay for many of them already, but we're going to go over them kind of real briefly, do cursory glances and check out some of the various features of the aircraft. Now first we have the new Bearcats, and we have the F8F1 Bearcat sitting at tier 15. Now there is also its big brother, the F8F1B, and that is sitting at tier 16, and the main difference between them is armament. At the F8F1 you have, let's see here, 4 50 caliber machine guns, but these are the M3 Browning machine guns, which have a higher rate of fire than the M2 Browning machine guns, so they have a different sound effect. And then the F8F1B has 4 20mm cannons. So in terms of firepower, let's look at the 1-second burst mass comparison. The F8F1B with its 420s has a 7.1 kilogram per second burst mass, which means that's how much lead can be fired on target within 1 second. And then 3.47 kilograms per second burst mass for the F8F1 Bearcat with only the 50 caliber machine guns. So your burst mass is just almost doubled right there. So yeah, overall pretty sizable difference in firepower. And when looking at the base stats, there is pretty much the same statistics on paper, though you may need to check that out in testing as a lot of the aircraft go. Flight models may be different. Maybe these paper statistics are what they're going for, but obviously, as we've seen in the past, flight models need a little bit of time and a little bit of experimenting and testing in order to get them to where they're ideally going to be situated, and that is usually at the paper statistics, which you can see on these cards right here. So moving on, we have the F9 F5 Panther, one of the first Blue Angel aircraft, but it also has 4 20mm cannons like the F8F1B, and rather powerful, pretty good jet overall with a 30 meter per second rate of climb. Rather decent. Let's compare that with the Sabre, who has an 18.3 meter per second rate of climb on paper. And then the Shooting Star, which has a 19.3 meter per second rate of climb. And looking at overall speeds, the Shooting Star has 947 kilometer per hour top speed. Sabre has 989, and then our good old Panther has 972. So the Panther is faster than the Shooting Star and slower than the Sabre, and that kind of fits with its overall tiering. 18 Shooting Star, 19 Panther, and 20 for Sabre. So as an American jet jockey, you just got upgraded, sir. You had 1 jet available, and now you have 3. So now we'll look at the armament of the Shooting Star. Now it has M3 Browning machine guns as well, just like the F8F1, and there's a new sound effect for that, which is different, as I said earlier, but it just sounds awesome. You gotta check it out, and I'll have some of that, some sound effect comparison a little later, as well as some statistics on the different American machine guns, so stay posted for that. And it sounds like a Gatling gun. It just sounds pretty cool. It's like the World War II equivalent of just like a Gatling gun. It's pretty awesome. And then we have the P-47D-28. That's right, gentlemen. We have a new, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me there, ladies. And we got a new jug. We have the D-25, which we've had, and now we have the D-28. So, looking at the statistics, the max speed of the D28 is increased. It is faster. Looking at rate of climb, it is, oh my god. Now, this may be a test. I'm not really sure. If that is true, there's no way these two planes should be on the same tier. The D25 has a rate of climb of 6.1 meters per second, and the D28 has a rate of climb of 15.9 meters per second. Both of them have 8 of the M2 Brownings with exactly the same 1-second burst mass and exact same armament. Let's see, can you be upgraded? What do we got? This is the new weapon layout, and you have the 127 Havars as rockets, and you got a decent amount of ordnance. You can even get Havars and rockets, so overall not too much there. Yeah, and this is a fully upgraded P-47 Thunderbolt in order to kind of show its potential, maximum potential. So yeah, comparing the two Thunderbolts, you finally have one that can really compete in historical battles, because in historical battles as a fighter, it's a race to climb, especially against the Germans, as it has been in previous patches, and a lot of fighter pilots are really realizing the advantages of getting up high and being able to drop, bounce, and boom and zoom your enemies. And good old Jug here is a high altitude fighter. The problem with the D25 was its rate of climb. With a rate of climb of 6.1 meters per second, you have to get to such a high altitude in order to really kind of come into your own and use the true advantages of the Thunderbolt. I outlined that in one of my other videos, which I'll put in the video description, of the German Premium Thunderbolt. And if you wanted more information on kind of the issues that the Jug was experiencing currently, check that out. But basically, this is a high altitude fighter, really high altitude. That's where it performs best. It can do ground attack, and it can dive like no other because of its just great weight and great durability and construction. So it can dive. But you need to get to altitude to use those advantages, and you'll just get out-climbed with a rate of climb of 6.1 meters per second. On paper, it may be a little different, but it should be around that area. And the D28, 15.9 meters per second. This will be a rather good Jug, because... And I call it Jug because that's one of the Thunderbolt's nickname, because look at that thing. It does kind of look like an old school milk jug, don't it? But this is a beast. This is good. This is what the Americans need, because basically, as it stands right now in historical, most people are using this dirty, dirty little boy right here, the Corsair 1C, which has an overly generous flight model. We will say that. And a big issue with American fighter aircraft in the past was the fighter gap, because you had the Mustang and the Sabre, 7 tiers, and once you pass, all the tiers take time, but the tiers get greater and greater in number of experience points that you need in order to get to the next level. So between 13 and 20, it was just an arduous grind, given the fact that you had nothing to use, and the P-51 in previous patches wasn't really what a lot of people had hoped, so most people just stuck with the Corsairs. So you just see tons and tons of Corsairs. So that overall is good. So basically, between the fighter gap of 13 and 20, which is what it used to be, we now have our Bearcats at tier 15, tier 16. Then you jump to the Shooting Star at 18, and you get your first jet at tier 18, which is pretty good. And we'll look at the British real quick. They get their first jet at 17, but there is some talk about good old Meteor F3, but you should expect that at tier 17. So back to the Americans. Yeah, 18 is your first jet, then you got 19 and 20. So overall, you have a lot more depth in between. Basically, the fighter gap is relatively filled with these Bearcats, and assuming that the 1C's flight model is changed, which it is planned to be, because that was one of the biggest issues with 1.31 in terms of flight models. Initially, you had the whole Lavochkin UFO scare with the LA-5s and LA-7s, but the Corsair somehow survived that purge of flight models. Yeah, but I mean, this is exciting news for the Americans. Um, and then we finally we're gonna round that out with another premium aircraft. In the past patch in 1.31, you got the XP50 and the XP55, and those were some of the only new aircraft. There was also at one point there was flirtation with adding the new Jug, the D28, and there was another P51, and it seems like we've gotten one of those. But yeah, in 1.31 we got two new premium aircraft, which you want. I love premium aircraft. I like the idea of it. I feel like the more premium aircraft, the better, so long as you continue to add all of the freely accessible aircraft. And just my 2 cents, real quick, one of the reasons I like that is because premium aircraft, I think, if done effectively and done in an attractive way so people want to continually buy them, could alleviate some of the necessity for the developers to kind of have this grind in the economy. And I have no problems with the economy, but I know that a few people do. So, yeah, BTD-1 Destroyer. This is a naval bomber or torpedo bomber. It was designed and had a couple models put out, but they ended up scrapping it. They ended up not putting it into mass production. But it is pretty good, and I have a historical battle gameplay of it in which I got to try out two of, let's see, let's look at the ordnance real quick. I used two of the 500 kilo bombs, but you have a 1005 kilo torpedo. You get two of those. Pretty good. A lot of people say it may not be really used right now, but you have to keep in mind once ships come into play and you're an American and you want to sit at tier 10 or below, this is your go-to. This is going to be one of your go-tos. But you can have two torpedoes, one 1,000 kilo, two 500 kilos, two 100 kilos, and two 250 kilos, or six 100 kilo bombs. And then you have the advantage of it's a premium aircraft. So let's look at this. Right now, it could be changed, and it probably will because it doesn't seem to show all of the statistics. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the dev server, but you get a added bonus to your reward, both in XP and Silver Lions. But with two 20mm cannons and 200 rounds per cannon, that's pretty decent. If something does manage to find its way in front of you, or you get on someone's six, you should be able to chew them up rather decently with your 220s. A lot of American aircraft, in fact most of the American aircraft, are fitted with 50 caliber machine guns, almost standard. So your Panther, your BTD-1, some of the you got this Corsair here. That was another reason why a lot of people used it, was those 20mm cannons. And yeah, your Sabre doesn't even have 20s, although there is talk of another Sabre. And if that were to happen, I could imagine it being a premium one, or maybe it taking tier 20. But we won't really get into that right now. So overall, the addition of 20s, there are a lot more of the fighter gap that was filled. Some of these aircraft are toting 20mm cannons, and that will be well received for a lot of American pilots overall, because they want that firepower, the added firepower. They want to pretend they're, some of the other guys. But overall, I think this patch was very good for the Americans. And assuming that they kind of change out the flight models for some aircraft, minor changes needed, then I think this overall will be very, very well received for American pilots. I know for me, I'm going to get back on my American grind, as I had a ton of fun playing as this Panther. If you want to see gameplay, check the video description, as I'll have some of that there. The sounds of the M350s in your Shooting Star and in your F8, F1 Bearcat, they sound awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. How could I forget to mention? Could I please have some more? Yes, you can. You can have two Tiny Tim rockets. And these are 298mm rockets. They were called Tiny Tim, And kind of reports vary, but they were developed for anti-shipping, and they were designed to be accurate from relative distance. With most rockets, you kind of want to get in less than a kilometer away and fire your rockets, and there's issues with accuracy. The Tiny Tim was designed to be accurate at distances in excess of 1 kilometer. Granted, within 1 kilometer, you'll be a little more accurate. Keep that in mind. But it was used in bunker busting and anti-shipping. And I'm probably going to do a video on the Tiny Tim and maybe some of the other rockets. Speaking of other rockets, I know this is for you Americans, but as an American, you're going to have to be aware of your enemy's firepower. And these bad boys have the BR-21 rockets, which are 210 millimeters. So pretty decent sized rockets. Because you look at the rockets we've had before. Yeah, we'll just check out the Bearcat because it can fire them too. The Havar rockets are 127 millimeter rockets. So it looks so far that Tiny Tim, tiny indeed, is the biggest rocket currently available for most of the nations. But pretty good new addition. If you enjoy ground attack, you're gonna enjoy Tiny Tim. And I think right now, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but right now at this stage in the dev server, the only American aircraft who can use the American Tiny Tim rockets, so sorry other nations, it's an American version, but you can expect your own national versions coming in upcoming patches. It should seem relatively realistic of an expectation, but the only aircraft that are sporting Tiny Tims are the 2 Bearcats. So we'll look at the 1B real quick to confirm that. Oh, hello, Tiny Tim. Hello, Governor. Why does Tiny Tim have a a British voice? I have no idea. Yeah, we're looking at good old Jug. No Tiny Tims on that. And that's another pretty good ground attack aircraft. We'll look at Hellcat. And then I'll check the Corsairs. I just kind of want to double check this. Nothing on the Hellcats. Tiny Tims are probably pretty heavy, so they'll probably be on some of the newer designs. Corsair don't have it. But yeah, pretty good. Do you got it, BTD? No. You don't have any rockets because you are a dive bomber and a torpedo bomber. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the new American Aircraft 1 Premium, 5 freely accessible, all of which in excess of Tier 9. You have your Tier 9 P-47, and that right there, we're going to go over the highlights real quick. The climb rate. It makes it competitive in historical battles. The Shooting Star. The M3 Browning machine guns sound awesome in your first jet as an American pilot. You got your Panther, which is just beast, and it is your jet that has, so far, these green statistics here. I think those mean they are variable, they are subject to change, but at this stage in the dev server, it is the fastest climbing, on paper, American jet. Also, it is your only American jet toting 20mm cannons, so added firepower. A lot of people were saying, hey, with my Saber I have a ton of ammunition, yes, and I have really good fight characteristics, but that MiG-15 and that firepower, it's difficult to stay on par with that. And then you have your fighter gap fillers, the Bearcats. And yeah, see right there, look at this statistic card. And this kind of just goes to show that this is the dev server. The green statistics I'm pretty sure are variable. And the red, that means what it is doing right now to kind of show the various testing. Because these are made to be played and tested on the dev server, and they're trying out different things. So, yep. And your Bearcats have good old Tiny Tim rockets. Overall, really, really good. Check the video description below for individual gameplay videos, as that's where I will be posting the various links to the gameplay for all of these awesome aircraft. And these are some of the ones I'm most excited about. So it's going to be good. Going to be really good. Americans should be very, very pleased right now. And you can still be picky and say, I want that that other P51 and I want the P38L. But you know what? That will come later, all in due time. You got a pretty good tree. And after all, you're not the Japanese. I'm Baron. Thanks for watching. And this was the new patch 1.33, at least according to the dev server, at this stage in development, new U.S. American aircraft. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, flying in the F9F Panther. This plane is beautiful. Just got a nice little screenshot here. Oh, and look who we have. We have Intech. So before I get shot down by everything and their grandmother, this is the cockpit. This aircraft is a beast. I'm hoping not to die.